coffee that's cold, sharing real talk that's pure gold. Mommy okay, but not alright. Laughing through the chaos of a sleepless night. They'll keep it real, they'll keep it sunny. Being a mom is weird and funny.
All right. This is our first recording of the Mommy Okay podcast.
I'm
So you
so
want to, I am too. You want to do an intro and walk through why we're here?
Yeah, sure. Welcome to Mommy Okay. This is the podcast where we're going to get real about postpartum mental health and the messy, beautiful journey of motherhood. I'm Caitlin,
And I am Christy.
and we are starting this podcast. Honestly, I feel like because it's what we needed when we were postpartum.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like everything you see on social media, it's all lies. We just need some real, honest truths about postpartum. So we decided to be the ones to give you that content.
True.
All right. So, on today's topic, we're going to talk about the question that I feel like every mom asks. Am I okay? Because there's just so many times in my postpartum experience where I ask that question to myself, but also to my husband. So, I figured that's a good topic to start with, especially since our podcast is named Mommy Okay. So, I think what we need to do is just give an expectation for the listeners of like what the podcast is going to be about and the topics, and then kind of go into our topic this morning. But we really want to talk about just like the insights and the truths about anything related to pregnancy, postpartum, and motherhood. And the biggest topic is, I think, am I okay? Like, a lot of people ask that question. And so it's something that we want to discuss with all of you listeners so you feel less alone.
Yeah, I distinctly remember being postpartum. I was like 2 or 3 weeks postpartum, and I had no idea if I was okay. And like breastfeeding was super hard for me. And I just remember searching the podcast library for anything that could like teach me if I was okay or help me. And I literally could not find one thing. And since then, I think that the conversation has opened up a lot. But we also want to provide like tactical things you can do to make sure that you can be okay. Right? I think there's
100%.
a lot of people being a little more honest about what their postpartum experience was like, and it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but we're going to try to bring some real tips and tricks you can use in that period to kind of help pull yourself together.
Yeah, I think it's super eye-opening that when you have the baby, right? Like, actually, no, backing up. When you're pregnant, everyone asks how you're doing. How are you feeling? How are you eating okay? Are you exercising? Are you sleeping enough? And it's like, oh my God, everyone's focused on the mom because they're carrying this baby and it's a really exciting time. And then you have the baby and you go through labor and everyone says, how's the baby? No one asks, how are you? And then it kind of like completely flips to everyone's just asking how the baby is. Is the baby eating okay? Is the baby sleeping okay? Blah, 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 blah. And then in your head, you're like, am I okay? Because I'm
Yeah.
struggling to breastfeed. I have no idea what I'm doing. The baby's not sleeping. My emotions are all over the place. I like things about postpartum no one warned me about. Like, I remember the first night sweats I got when we came home from the hospital. And I literally was like, I'm dying. I am dying. I am not okay. It's like, why is no one asking me if I'm okay? Like, I
Yeah.
just birthed a baby.
Not only that, but the second that baby is born, you yourself naturally just put yourself on the back burner because as a first time mom, especially, you are so consumed with making sure that you are figuring out how to be a mom that like your own care and healing and like mental health doesn't even really occur to you to be a priority.
Yeah. What's the first thing that like you forgot to do in terms of taking care of yourself? Like for me, it was brushing my teeth. I would go days without brushing my teeth.
Yeah, I had to shower because I was like night sweats were terrible for me. So like I would shower, but like I would not do my hair. I don't even think I put makeup on once my entire maternity leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
My gosh, it was bad.
I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like you don't have the energy to take care of yourself, but it's so important
Yeah.
to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going on to, like, the postpartum and talking about mental health and things like that, do you wanna get into a little bit about your story and what you experienced? Because you're now pregnant with your 3rd, so you've had 2 postpartum experiences.
And they have been wildly different, and that's what's been so interesting to me is going to my first pregnancy. Like, I had a great first pregnancy, totally healthy, normal, and fine. My birth was like normal. However, in like the processing of it afterwards, I realized it was like a deeply traumatic experience for me. Nothing went wrong. Like, I was healthy, the baby was healthy, but like that process of giving birth for the first time was extremely traumatic. And there was no room to process or like figure out what was going on mentally at that point. You just go home and you try to learn how to take care of a baby. I was blessed with a first baby that did not sleep. And so my physical recovery was hard. Learning how to breastfeed was really hard for me. And on top of that, I wasn't sleeping. And what I know now that I didn't know then is like that's the perfect storm for postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And I had never had a personal history with anxiety, depression, mental health. I had no idea that what I was feeling was postpartum depression because I didn't have the symptoms that are classic postpartum depression. I never thought about hurting myself. I never thought about harming my baby. I didn't have any thoughts about like OCD. I wasn't obsessing over things. My postpartum depression displayed as complete numbness. I couldn't feel anything. I was like literally a shell of myself. And if anyone who knows me in real life knows I'm very expressive, very happy, and I was just like a walking shell of a human. I could not access any of my emotions. And in fact, really the only thing I felt was rage. And my rage was induced by the silliest of things. In particular, our dog, who I love so much, would induce this crazy amount of rage to me. Like, if he would get too close to the baby, I would just be so mad at him. If he would bark while the baby was sleeping, I would go from 0 to 100 on the rage scale. And anger was not an emotion that I was like experiencing in my normal life pre-baby. And it was scary to me how mad and how fast I could get that mad.
You're like, "Why is
And
the dog pissing me off so much?"
literally, I don't know if that's a common experience. It will be interesting to hear if anyone
Yeah.
has, but like the dog was just a huge trigger for me for whatever reason. And this went on for 4 months. Like I was already back at work. And I think
4 months.
that's
4
what's
months.
sad to me is I lived that way for 4 months thinking this is just what motherhood is. Like, I have ruined my life by becoming a mom because this is the new version of me and this is just how I am now.
Yeah.
And I was so sleep deprived. I remember I would lay in bed and I would like daydream about this was probably my first clue when I was like, oh, I need to see a doctor. I would lay in bed in the middle of the night and my baby would be awake with me and I would just be daydreaming like, I wish someone would come take this baby and I could just go far away and sleep for like 2 weeks.
Ow. Yeah.
And it wasn't even like your reaction to that thought. I knew something was wrong because I didn't have a reaction in my body to having that sort of intrusive thought. I was just like, yeah. And the fact that I didn't have an internal reaction of like, that's sad or that's not a healthy thought, that's when I was like, I probably need to go see a doctor. Like, that's probably not a normal reaction to an
The
intrusive thought.
thing is, like, I don't wanna say normal because it shouldn't be normal, but it's common. The amount of people that probably feel that and don't vocalize it, like, that's very common.
Yeah. And gosh, I mean, you talk about the shame that's wrapped up as women with mental health in general. And then you layer in the expectation of motherhood, which is supposed to be the happiest time and
Yeah.
everyone's in newborn heaven when they get home from the hospital and you've been waiting so long. And so the shame of vocalizing that to the people around me was so deep. Like, I could not say any of those thoughts I was having because it would be admitting that I wasn't enjoying motherhood, which I had wanted to be a mom for a while. So
And you also don't want people to question that you're not a
yes,
capable mother, and then they start thinking, should we come take the baby? Like, is this to a point where, we have to get child services involved? I know a lot of women are so scared to talk about their mental health and what they're feeling because they're scared of what the response is going to be, because the response is always negative.
you're so right. And in fact, I think that was the most surprising thing when I started talking about my postpartum depression, like on TikTok, was the comments of people saying, this is why I will never like vocalize it, because I don't want someone to take my baby and I don't want any of the repercussions that can come with it. And that's really heavy.
It's so heavy. It's I think a lot of people don't realize that you can have two different feelings on totally different spectrums, the end of the spectrum,
Yeah,
live in the same place. You can feel that numbness, but also still love and care for your baby and not want someone to think that you are not a capable
sure.
mother.
For sure. So anyway, 4 months in, I was back at work. I was like full time. The nanny had started. I'm back at work. I'm still not sleeping. Baby's not sleeping. I went to my OBGYN and I remember pulling into the parking lot and being like, this woman is going to think I'm crazy because I don't really have a good way to vocalize like what's going on. And sleep deprivation can do such crazy things to your brain. I couldn't even remember how long I had been feeling poorly for. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
vocalize how long this had been going on for, because the days seemed to kind of blend together. But I went in and I was just telling her, like, it feels like all my emotions are inside of a balloon and I can see them and they should exist, but I cannot do anything to like pop the balloon and actually feel anything. And immediately she's like, oh, you have postpartum depression. Like, it was so simple. And I was like, how could that be? Like, I had spent months Googling. There was nothing that even like remotely made me think that I had postpartum depression until I started having those intrusive thoughts in the middle of the night. And
Yeah.
she handed me a pamphlet, and the pamphlet was like 10 things you might think if you have postpartum depression. And it's like the cheesiest pamphlet ever, but I opened it up and it was like everything that had been going on in my head for 4 months. I was like both relieved and like really frustrated that it had taken so long for me to grasp the fact that I wasn't okay and like that I
And to
should
find
have
help.
gotten help. Yeah. So she wrote
4
me a
months is a
prescription.
long time. It's a
It
long time.
is. Like, I missed the newborn window. And I look back at pictures and I'm just like, I honestly don't remember it. Like
Ugh, it's so
I don't
sad.
remember it, and you can't get it back. And that's why these conversations are important, is because the sooner that moms can realize, oh, something is up. And like you said, Christy, like, it may be common, but it's not normal, and you can get help for it and you can come out of it and it's going to be okay. It's like that time is everything with your new baby, right?
Right.
Right.
So was your doctor like, let's talk about it? Or was it just like, okay, here's medication to hopefully help balance what's going on? Like what? Because I know every doctor handles postpartum very, very differently.
So her approach was, I'm going to write you a prescription for an SSRI. You need to find a therapist. See you later. Which honestly, I felt like at the moment it was the best she could do. But like, telling a sleep deprived mom of a newborn, go out and find a therapist. It took me 4 months to even make an appointment with my OBGYN and come in for that appointment. So
Yeah.
I
100%.
felt so defeated. I was glad to have like the medication and like that helped, but I really did need therapy because, like I said, for me, my birth was really traumatic. And that was like such a key part of my therapy journey, was just unpacking that and actually like coping with it and dealing with it. And so when I finally found a therapist, which is a whole nother story about how long that takes to find someone who specializes in postpartum, who takes your insurance, who has an opening, like, it's just a whole
Oh,
process.
yeah.
And, we're working on tools to make that easier, but like, sheesh, you might as well be telling a new mom to climb Mount Everest.
100%. Climb Mount Everest while not getting enough nutrition, while sleep deprived, and making sure that you're keeping a little baby alive and safe.
Yep. But I went into her office and like she was teaching me these strategies that seemed like so simple and easy, but like they were actually pretty effective. And I think for me, that was kind of like the final straw of like, this should not be gate kept. Like this information and these tools and these strategies you should be learning them in your birth class, honestly. Like you should be like practicing physical birth techniques, and you should also be practicing the things to take care of your mental health after you get home. Because while they were helpful, I was just like, this is too little too late. I needed this immediately when I got home from the hospital.
Yep. Yep. How long did it take you to start feeling better?
I feel like it took me a good 6 to 8 weeks on the medication and with therapy. And I was like, suddenly a new version of myself. Like I really felt like that, and the physical healing, it took me a good 6 months to feel like I was actually like healed from birth. Yeah. And then my second child came 2 years after the first. And I think what was so surprising to me was my postpartum experience was completely different. And I had prepared myself like, this is going to be just as bad as it was the first time. I know what I'm going to do. I know the signs. I know that I can get back on the medication if I need to. And it was such a healing experience. And I know there's a lot of moms out there that are like, I could never go through it again because it was so bad. And I had no idea.
That was one of my fears.
I had no idea it could be so different. And so in a lot of ways, I think that second experience was healing for me too. Just seeing like that it could go well and I could have a birth that wasn't traumatizing. And my second baby happened to sleep well, which like honestly made all the difference.
So what are you doing to prepare for your third?
Yeah.
For the mental health portion of it? Because I feel like now you're an expert to prepare for the baby portion of it.
Yeah, it's been so interesting. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I have just learned so much. And going into this pregnancy, I have realized how much the first trimester has affected my mental health. Like, I am feeling so exhausted. I am feeling so sick. And just like naming it, like, I feel really down because this has been really hard on my body. I'm not able to work out the same way. I don't have the energy level that I did. I am like exhausted and in bed by 8 p.m. So I'm spending less time just like alone with my husband. And it's like, just understanding like I am feeling this way because this is hard, and naming the emotion. Even during pregnancy, I don't think that you realize how much that can affect your mental health. As you're sliding into that postpartum experience, it's like the practice of daily like naming your emotions, checking in on your mental health every day. That's a habit I'm starting now, so that by the time I get into postpartum, I'm already like in the habit of like daily check-ins with myself. I'm fully prepared that like it might go in a bad direction again, and I might need medication. I might need therapy again. But this time around, I have such a stronger support system.
Yeah. Isn't that so? One thing you just said that like made me think about something is, there's like a guilt almost that is associated with pregnancy, because there's a lot of women out there that, they wish that they could get pregnant. They're having difficulties getting pregnant or staying pregnant or experience losses. And it's like when you get pregnant, you are so thankful that your body can do this and you have a healthy baby and you get to experience all those exciting things. So you feel guilty talking about the things that just straight up suck during pregnancy.
Yeah.
Like, there's very few people that enjoy pregnancy, but we're so scared to admit that pregnancy is hard and we don't like it because we don't want to seem ungrateful for being able to get pregnant. And again, like, you can have two emotions that live with each other. You can be thankful that you're pregnant and have a healthy baby, but you can also say, wow, I hate being pregnant and this is terrible and my body is going through it and it's affecting my mental health.
Absolutely. Like, it feels hard because it is hard. Doing hard things is a part of being a human, and it's a part of being a mom. And there's a lot of hard moments in motherhood, but like just saying like I'm not enjoying this because it is hard and that's okay is like this radical acceptance of motherhood that I did not have the first time around.
I saw a stat when I was pregnant with my second one that like completely changed my mindset around pregnancy because like you, I have terrible pregnancies. I saw a stat that it's like the what the woman's body is doing on average a day is like running a marathon.
It's crazy. We're
Isn't that
so
wild?
hard on ourselves. We are so hard on ourselves.
Like I could not imagine getting up right now and running a marathon. I ran this morning. I could barely make it 2 miles without being like, this sucks. I have to stop. I cannot run a marathon, but yet I can do a day of pregnancy and be like, suck it up. This, you signed up for this. You just got to get through it. And it's like, no, it's this shit is hard. It's
Yeah.
hard to grow eyeballs and limbs and take care of a baby that literally is sucking out your energy and your nutrition and all of these things that your body is supplying to them so that they can be healthy.
Yeah,
It's like, of course, we're going to have a negative reaction to it.
for sure. And I think this is where like the mom village comes in because my husband is great. He will never understand. Like he will never truly comprehend what it's like. And like my village of friends that are also moms are the most supportive and empathetic like sounding board. And I wish that for every mom. Like I wish every mom felt like they had that. And it is sad to me that a lot of them feel like they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It it's definitely, I think for me going from my first pregnancy, I didn't have a lot of friends that had babies. I had one friend that just had a baby. And so I didn't really have a ton of support. With my second baby, I mean, you were the one during my entire first trimester where I was puking my brains out
That
every
was
other
awful.
minute. Like, you were my
It
safe
was so
space
sad.
because it was just like, I didn't have a ton of support from that end of someone knows exactly what I'm going through because my friend that did have a baby, she loved her pregnancy. She had great pregnancies. So our version of being pregnant were completely different. Completely different. But it's that having that village and those people around you to get you through it so important, so important. And I don't think we realize it. Like we were not meant to have babies, raise babies alone. Like that's why they called it a village back in the day, where everyone would help with each other and help them get through this. I mean, even just labor, right? Like they would have way more people in the birthing room than we do now to help that mom go through that experience. But we don't have a village anymore. It's all social media. It's pretend your life is perfect, keep up with
Yeah.
the Joneses, and what you're going through from a struggle standpoint, like don't voice it.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that we've all put ourselves into this box.
Yeah. It's just not an authentic way to experience motherhood. And the more people you can find in your life where you can authentically experience it alongside someone is it makes all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, my big thing so with my first, we struggled to get pregnant. So we had infertility. And I was so grateful when we found out that we got pregnant that we didn't have to go through IVF because we were so close to signing that check. And the day we found out I was pregnant with our son, Caden, we were going into the clinic to start the IVF process. And it just like lined up that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a test before we go. And we ended up being pregnant. And so during that entire pregnancy, I felt like it was too good to be true. Like I was just waiting for the loss to happen because of the infertility.
Hmm.
And so my anxiety started right away, like
Yeah.
right away. I would call my doctor all the time, being like, can I come in for an ultrasound? I just need to hear his heartbeat. I haven't felt him kick in an hour. I just need to come in and make sure he was okay. I should have known then that it would trickle into my postpartum, but I was just so focused on, I kept telling myself, we just got to get to the labor. He'll be okay.
When he's
We
here,
just
it'll
got to
be
get
okay.
through. Yeah. And then I had the most traumatic birth experience that I possibly could ever have. Like, that was a nightmare for me.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your birth experience and kind of how that led really threw you right into your postpartum anxiety?
Yeah. So I was 38 weeks pregnant, and I don't know why I decided I wanted to go walk around Home Goods at 38 weeks pregnant. And at Home Goods, I did not feel good. I was super dizzy, felt like I was gonna pass out. So I had called my husband, and he was like, "Well, come home. Like, do you feel safe to drive?" I said, "Yeah." Called the doctor. The doctor's like, "Come into triage." And we get into triage, and they're like, "Oh, maybe you have preeclampsia. So we're gonna just check for all the signs of preeclampsia." But my biggest thing was I had a headache, and they couldn't figure out why my headache wasn't going away with all the medications, right? So they're like, "You know what? We're just gonna have to induce you." Come to find out, I got diagnosed with COVID. And they're like, "Because you have COVID, we're going to continue with the induction." And my biggest concern right away was, okay, what about the baby and his safety? Am I gonna be able to hold him when he comes out? Like, this is my first labor. I I don't really know what to expect. And I had gotten the vaccine, and, like, that entire topic is so controversial, but I decided what was best for me and my son at the time I had gotten the vaccine. So, I was just so surprised that I had COVID. And we go through the induction, and the induction was terrible because they treated it like preeclampsia. So I couldn't have like an active birth at all. I was on magnesium, like just bedridden, had the catheter. It was terrible. And first time baby, first time induction, right? Like it took a
Slow
long,
process.
a
Yeah.
long time. And then towards the end of it, my body was just like, what is happening? And that started affecting my son's heart rate. And so they were like, if the baby doesn't come out within the next couple hours, we're going to have to start talking about alternative options. Luckily, I progressed. But the second he came out, I knew something was wrong. I had 2 doctors in there, which is abnormal to begin with because of the COVID. They were scared that I was gonna end up bleeding out, and I think one of the doctors just looked at my son and knew he wasn't doing good, and the next thing I know, there was a emergency button pressed. I think 15 to 20 nurses came in, crowding him, literally right when he came out, like,
I
right away.
think it, like, first of all, the trauma starts there because no one in that moment is explaining to you, if you've never given birth before, if something like this goes on, they're not telling you exactly what's going on with your baby as it happens.
No.
They're just going into work mode, and they don't, whether it's they don't want to say anything to you to scare you, or they're just so focused on helping you and the baby, no one's communicating to you what's going on. And so from that second, it's like it started there because I know no
Yeah.
one in that room was telling you this is exactly what's happening and it's going to be okay.
And no one was telling us. And you hear all this jargon from the nurses and doctors that you don't know from a normal person standpoint what they're talking about. And so it's like you automatically think the worst. You know, they're not even giving my husband the option to cut the cord. They just are like, "You know what, Dad, we got to focus on baby." And I'll never forget the nurse who helped deliver him. She was a sweet baby angel to me because she literally was the only one communicating to me. And I will never forget this. She said, "Mom, the good news is he has a heartbeat. The bad news is he's not breathing." And it just I remember looking, and I had a mask on because I had COVID, and they're all gowned up, right? Because I have COVID, and it's just the worst case scenario. And I look over at my husband, and he is just white, and he just looked at me and he was like, "I love you. It's gonna be okay." And I just started crying, crying. And they finally get him to breathe with all the oxygen. They put him in my arms for literally 2 seconds, and they said, "Take a picture, kiss him goodbye because he has to go to the NICU." And, you know, looking back on it, the fact that they even let us hold him for those 2 seconds to get a picture, it's like, okay, they knew it wasn't as serious. Like, if it was life or death, he would have been whisked away. I wouldn't have been able to hold him. But then it's like, you just were in labor for 36 hours with this baby that you prayed to God for so long. I had a normal pregnancy, like, there was nothing abnormal about my pregnancy, and then the baby's taken away, and I don't get to hold him. I don't get to see him. I don't get to do skin to skin. My husband got robbed of cutting the cord. Like, there were just so many moments that got taken away from us. And I'm sitting in that room afterwards, and I remember thinking, like, now what? Like, what do we do now? And the nurse was like, well, we need to get you healthy. And I'm like, I'm not concerned about me anymore. My son just got taken away to go make sure that he is okay. So when I got transferred to the post-op area, I was still on magnesium, so I wasn't allowed to, like, walk around or do anything. I just laid in that bed and wondered if he was alive. It was like, if he dies, someone will have to tell me right away, right? Like, and that was for 24 hours. I wondered if he was gonna make it, just laying in a bed.
It's such an awful thing because thinking back to what you said about your pregnancy, it's like the whole pregnancy, you were like, just as soon as he gets here, like, then it'll be
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
And so not only did you have anxiety the entire pregnancy of like, is he okay? Is he okay? Because when you're pregnant, you truly don't know what's going on, even though it's happening inside your body. Like,
yep, yep,
and you just think like, when I give birth, he'll be here and then it'll be okay.
yeah.
And it did
A
not go that way.
And it's like, God, I just wish he stayed in there a little bit longer because he was safer in there, you know? And again, it's one of those things. Right now, I feel guilty talking about it because we had a happy ending. And I know a lot of women and families don't get a happy ending, but it's also one of those things that I need to recognize. Like, we had a traumatic experience. Both me and my husband went through a very traumatic experience. My son went through a traumatic experience. And it's okay that we ended up feeling the way that we did. You know, me, which is a whole nother conversation, but me and my husband talk about it a lot. He ended up getting postpartum anxiety because of it. Like, he still struggles with his anxiety, especially when it comes to our son, because of what we went through and
Yeah.
making sure that he's constantly safe. And it's just one of those things, like, when we brought him home, the anxiety just got worse and worse for me. I did not want anyone to hold him. Like, I would have intrusive thoughts, and I would envision I'll never forget this moment. I, like, pictured in my head his brain, basically his skull, smashing like an egg on the ground because I was passing him over to one of my family members, and they didn't catch him or take him appropriately, and he fell and his brain smashed. That's all I could keep thinking about and seeing in my head, where it was like, I don't wanna pass you to anyone because I think that's gonna happen. Or, like, rounding a corner in my house, I thought I would gonna slam his head off the wall, breathing in the middle of the night because he had the oxygen issue. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't sleep, and like you said, sleep deprivation. I mean, it goes to show they use sleep deprivation as a torture tactic. Like, moms.
For a good reason. Because
Yeah, yeah. And, you were the one who told me that something was going on, and I just thought, I've always had anxiety and depression my entire life. I've always had to be on medication for my anxiety, so it wasn't new for me in a sense of, like, okay, you're an anxious person. Like, yeah, people would joke, like, my family would joke, like, Christy's an anxious person. We all know that. And it's like, yeah, but this is a whole nother level. Like, this is a whole different ball game here. And you were the one who said, I think you need to start looking into getting some professional help. And that was super eye-opening for me of, like, I think you said, like, "You're not enjoying this, are you?" And I said, "No, I'm not, because I'm worried about everything, everything. Everything he does, everything I do, I'm second guessing myself. I'm so worried I'm gonna do something wrong where we don't come back from it." And I think that's because I felt like I failed him during the labor of, like, we almost didn't come back from that. And so for me, it was just like, I don't enjoy this because I'm so scared I'm gonna harm him. I'm so scared he's gonna end up in a situation where, we don't have a happy ending. And that was eye-opening of, like, I should be enjoying this. I'm a first-time mom. I've prayed for this. I've cried many tears about wanting this day to come when I was struggling to get pregnant. And now that the time is here, I'm just like, I froze. It's like, I don't know how to move forward liking this and being happy that we're finally at a place where I dreamed about.
Yeah. I think like I've seen a lot of like my friends in postpartum make light of situations where they're having intrusive thoughts. I've heard a lot of other women like joke about having a lot of anxiety. And for me, like witnessing it as your friend and you opening up about like how that postpartum experience was for you, like to me, it was like not light or funny. Like, I don't think that you were sharing things with me as like a cry for help. I think you were just like giving me the update of like, this is what's going on. But I felt so unwilling to let you walk through any amount of time in this place of anxiety because I could see you taking on so many outside factors that you had no control over. And I could see that it was just like really affecting your mental health. And I truly just became unwilling to let you walk the same path I did of like waiting to get help. And it might have felt awkward when I was like, you should try to look into it and just see. But like, I just desperately wanted to pull you out of it and not let
I'm
you
gonna
walk.
get I'm gonna get emotional about it because you literally were the only one who said, like, this is not okay. And if I didn't have someone like you in my life, like what would the outcome be? You know, like how bad would it have gotten for me before I got help? And I'm so glad that I didn't have to experience that
Yeah,
because,
me too.
you know, it was a roller coaster. I mean, I'm still dealing with it. I've never gotten off my anxiety medicine right when I started when I was postpartum with him. You know, I have my second's almost one now, which is crazy to think about. But when I got pregnant with her, I asked my doctor, like, what is there a risk with her having the medication within her system? And that was another thing I struggled with from an anxiety standpoint of like, I'm doing her a disservice because I need it for my mental health. Like it's just like
Yeah,
it never
it's, we can't
ends.
win.
Yeah, but my doctor was like, for your health and your sanity, I need you to stay on this medication. The risks of her having this within her system outweigh what could happen if you get off of this medication. And so it was just like it was a no-brainer if I just need to continue. And I mean, I struggle. It's something I just think I'm always going to struggle with. I have the tools now to help me when I'm in a moment of panic. It's like, okay, now I know how to calm my breathing. Now I know how to regulate my emotions and get back to your brain is telling you a lie. What you're thinking right now is not going to happen. Let's think about the things that are actually happening. Your baby's safe. They're with you. They're happy. They're healthy. They're getting fed regardless of breast milk or formula. And I didn't have those tools with my first. And so now with the second, it's like I can get myself out of the chaos a little bit when it's just like an ugly little monster that comes in and wants to peek in and say hi now and then, but then I know how to shut the door on his face to say it's time for you to leave.
Not to mention, like, I was so worried about you when you got pregnant with your second because that pregnancy was hell. You
That
went
was
through
hell.
it, and your oldest was still young. Like, it was a
And I
hard
just
pregnancy.
lost my dad.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that I often don't think about. I think that's, again, like, grief on top of going through something like that is a wild experience. But yeah, that second pregnancy, I don't know why I want another one after what I've gone through between the first one with my anxiety and the second one that I was just puking my brains out to the point where they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to hospitalize you." But man, these kids, they
I will never forget after I had my first and I was like in so much pain trying to recover. And I was just like, women have been doing this for how long? And the human race continues to exist. Why would anybody sign up for this? Why would anyone do this? And then a year later, I was pregnant again.
Yeah, because your brain truly forgets about a lot of those moments where you're just like I have no idea what a contraction feels like. You know what I mean? Like I
Oh, yeah.
can't
I
go
couldn't
back in my
even.
head and be like, "All right, this is what it's like pushing out a baby." All I think about is the afterwards. Like afterwards with my second, it was like just bliss. That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Of like, we had the best labor and everything went so smoothly and quick. And when they put her on me for skin to skin, I just started bawling my eyes out of like, this is, I am so sad that my son got robbed of this, but I am so grateful that I get this moment with my daughter. And she literally laid on me for an hour. And my husband got to cut the cord. Like, it was so ideal and so perfect. And it's like, if that was the case for every birth, like, our population would be through the roof. It really would be. But I'm just so glad that I got to experience how great it can be, right? Like, I think it's important to talk about the bad, but also talk about the good too. Like, there are so many good moments that outweigh the bad moments when you go through pregnancy and postpartum, and moments where you meet your son or your daughter for the first time and you touch their little fingers and their toes and you hear the little coos and things like that. It's like, yeah, I want another one. I want to experience those moments again. I don't want to experience the traumatic moments. I want to experience the good that comes with it.
You're right. And you and I talk about this a lot. I feel like the conversation has been opened up a lot, especially I had my first 5 years ago. And the fact that people are willing to get on social media and tell their stories and be open about how difficult the postpartum period was for them. I was desperately seeking anyone who was talking about that after I had my first, and I couldn't find it. And so I think it's great that women feel like empowered and comfortable enough to share how they struggled in postpartum. But to your point, I think we do women who are thinking about getting pregnant a disservice if all we do is talk about how difficult and hard it can be. And we don't come to the table with like helping you prepare for how you can enter that period and know and have the tools in your toolkits to heal yourself. And you might have a great experience postpartum and you might not need them. Great.
Yeah.
But
It's
like
that conversation.
knowing it could go either way and I'm prepared for anything and I can do it.
So we go into labor, right? Like, you have your labor plan, like your ideal labor plan, but you talk about all the options of like, this could happen.
Yes.
And this is how we would handle it if the worst case scenario happens. Nobody talks about that with postpartum. It's like, okay, you had the baby. Like, when we had our son, which I know for Silas, you probably got the same thing. We got a pack of like how to breastfeed, how many times to change their diaper, safe sleeping, all of
It's
these things.
literally like a textbook page of
Yeah.
like
And then
full copy.
one paragraph in the back, it's like, if you're experiencing baby blues longer than 2 weeks, which at that point, they're no longer baby blues. Like, we need to make that very clear. Baby blues only last a couple of weeks, and that's because of the hormone drop and change because the baby is no longer in your body and the placenta leaves your body. Those baby blues are normal because that your body needs to do that for the hormones to go back. After the next couple weeks, if you're still feeling sad, you're crying, you're not getting out of bed, you're scared to hold or touch your baby, you aren't really wanting to take care of yourself, those are no longer baby blues. That's okay, we need to talk about you potentially having another postpartum mental health disorder. And it's like, it was just in a paragraph of, if your baby blues continue, just reach out to your OBGYN. My OBGYN was great. I loved her during my pregnancy, loved her for labor and delivery. Afterwards, 6-week checkup. Do you want to go on birth control? No, I'm feeling anxious. Okay, fill out this questionnaire. Filled out the questionnaire. She said, all right, I got to go to my next patient. It took me a while because I was like a little pissed off at first about that. And then I had the realization, like, it's not her job to
Yeah.
take care of my mental health.
Yeah.
Her job is to make sure I have a safe pregnancy. Her job is to make sure that baby and myself are okay when that baby comes into this world, and to make sure that the next 6 weeks, your body is healing the way that it should be. OBGYNs do so much, and yet we're expecting them to say, now let's focus on your mental health and here's what we need to do. Like, who's going to be that middle person to say, it's not the OBGYN's job, but we need someone who can identify it and knows us, and not just a random therapist who has no idea about any type of perinatal or postpartum mental health disorders. And I think that's where the gap is. And that's where a lot of this is getting lost, because there's no handoff. There's no, right, you filled out this questionnaire. It looks like you're struggling with something. I can put you on medication. That's all I can do.
Yeah. And there's no follow up after that, right? Like she could write you a year. That's what my OBGYN, I'll write you a year's worth of this medication and then I'll see you at your next yearly annual checkup. That's wild. And like, let's talk about the Village 4 app for a little bit, because I mean, honestly, it's why we built it. Is through our stories you can hear, like, we both experienced this gap after we gave birth where we really didn't know if we were okay. And we've worked really hard in the last year to build the tool that will help you figure out if you are okay or not. And it's very easy to use, and it will help you track your moods. It will help give you the screenings that you need weekly so that you know how your mood is trending. It will give you all the tools and tricks that I said I learned in therapy that helped me right at home the day you go home postpartum. And it'll also help you kind of process, like, maybe you will have a great birth experience and you just need some help processing like how great and wonderful it was and you want to journal that. Great. It could go in the other direction where you need some support, and the app will help you with that as well. And I think, like, truly, I believe if I had had the Village 4 app postpartum, I would remember the newborn stage with my son, because I would have gotten help a lot sooner.
Yeah. And the community aspect of it, right? Like it can go for both ways. If you are a new mom and you had the most ideal labor and pregnancy and everything went great, you're still a new mom. You still have questions that you're Googling at 2 a.m. Like, is this sound normal? Should the baby be doing this? Like, all those things we do in the middle of the night Googling. And so it's replacing that Google where you can reach out to a community to say, hey, this is what I'm experiencing right now. This is what my baby just did. Like, should I be worried? What should I expect here? And for me, my big thing with postpartum was having a trusted person who went through the same experience help validate my feelings a lot. Like you helped validate my feelings a lot. So it's that community within the app is going to be a game changer. It's like, it's on your phone. You know, there's another mom out there at 2 a.m. feeding the baby, going through the exact same thing. You want to chat because you have anxiety about something. You want to chat because your baby just literally refuses to sleep and you need someone to talk to because you're lonely at 2 a.m. Like, having that community is such a great resource within the app, but also on the other end of like teaching you things of, is this an intrusive thought? I had no idea what an intrusive thought was. I had no idea the definition of that until I went to therapy, and it was like, okay, you're experiencing a lot of intrusive thoughts. And not to get off topic too much, but intrusive thoughts can be both about the baby and about yourself. I know some women right now, their intrusive thoughts are, what happens if something bad happens to me? What happens to the
Yes.
baby? Like, what,
Yes.
it's like that portion of it's very scary. And I don't think a lot of people realize that we all go through this type of thinking, and talking about it in the community could be that difference, right? Like, I didn't go through 4 months of postpartum anxiety and depression because of you. Like, that is my game changer for me, was you saved me all those months of trying to figure it out on my own. And so if someone in the app, if we can do that within the app or within the community, say right up front after you had a baby, like, these are normal things, they're common, let's talk about them and let's get you help as soon as possible. Like, we really could save lives, because at the end of the day, the biggest statistic right now is that women are dying during that postpartum period because of suicide.
Yeah. Postpartum mood disorders, suicide, and overdose are the number one cause of postpartum death in moms in the US. And that is really crazy.
It's heavy.
I mean, and another statistic, like, since you and I started working on this project, it used to be reported that 1 in 7 women suffered from a postpartum mood disorder. In the last year, that statistic has increased from 1 in 7 to 1 in 5 women. And so, based on all the research you and I have done, I would not be surprised if we see that drop to 1 in 4 here very quickly.
Well, yeah, because that's the documented cases. How many women look back after a year or two postpartum and say, wow, yeah, you know what? I actually did have depression.
I think that's what, like, motivates me to get the app live more than anything, is I personally know so many women who are like, yeah, looking back, man, I really went through it for a year, for 2 years. I didn't have another kid because it was so bad. And it's like,
Yeah.
that might be common, but it's not normal. And we can help
Yeah.
you with that.
So we're coming up at our hour here. So I think talking about some actionable takeaways that people can use in their everyday life is, check in with yourself. Ask how you're feeling. Is that feeling something that should be talked about? Do you feel happy? Do you feel sad? Just recognizing how you're feeling can start that conversation with your spouse or someone that you trust.
And
Find a
within
resource. Go ahead. Sorry.
within like check in with yourself, like number one, be honest. And
Yeah.
number two, document it. And the app's not live yet. You can do this within the Village 4 app. Until it comes out, I would say open a notes on your phone and literally just write the date and your mood and start there. And that will help you to recognize patterns. Just start documenting it, because it was so hard for me to understand how long I was feeling bad for, because I wasn't doing that the first time around. And just being able to see how many days in a row you feel low will really open your eyes to the reality of you're not doing well and you're not okay. And then that's a starting point. The data gives you a starting point to really like take ownership of it and get help.
And to help identify, because there are so many different disorders out there, there is a big difference between postpartum anxiety and depression, OCD,
Oh my
psychosis.
goodness. I think OCD is so much more common in postpartum than we realize. And it might appear to friends and family as like you're just an uptight first time mom who's obsessed with the schedule, but like it is bigger than that. And I think a lot of women joke about it, like, oh, they were so uptight. And it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a joke.
It's not. And writing it down and just having those notes to look back on, it can help identify, especially if you do get a resource and get help where it's, okay, these are the things I've been experiencing for the past 4, 5, 6 weeks, that will help really pinpoint exactly what you're going through. Another one that I feel like we just don't do enough of is give ourselves grace, right?
Yeah.
Like every day in parenthood is different. Every day you feel different. There are days where you are going to feel so productive. You cleaned the house, you emptied the dishwasher, you caught up on laundry, your baby slept wonderful. And then there are going to be days where you forgot to brush your teeth, that you're hanging on by a thread because your baby refuses to sleep and is only nursing, or won't go to dad, or all of these things that every day is different. Give yourself grace. Like, you are doing the best that you possibly can. If that baby is safe, then everything is going to be okay.
Yep. Women in general, I said this earlier, are so hard on ourselves, and then we become moms and it is like times 1,000. Yeah, I think like drawing boundaries. For me, the second time around, what I learned with the first is like another note I had on my phone was like my non-negotiable self-care was like every day after I get cleared at 6 weeks, I need to move my body. I need to drink water and I need to get outside in the sunlight. If those three things haven't happened and I'm feeling low, then it's like, that is my emergency SOS go-to list. And I communicated that with my husband ahead of time of like, hey, I need time every single day to move my body. And if that doesn't happen, it's not going to go well for me. And so you have to communicate what your needs are, and you have to, like, someone has to help you carve out time because someone has to be with the baby. Right. So I think like planning that ahead of time and having that list where, because you will forget if you're in the fog of postpartum of like, what is going to help you claw out of it. And so before you give birth, if you can just write down, these are the things that pull me out of a funk, that make me happy. And that's the list you can refer to if you need to pull yourself out of a hard day.
Yeah. It's a game changer. Even 10 minutes of it. I've noticed during this podcast, all I've said is a game changer.
But we know a lot of them now. And I'm like, I think also if you are like pregnant or you're a friend of someone, like be willing to be the weird friend that like asks the hard question. Because not only for you, but like anyone I know, even if we're just a random acquaintance on Instagram and they give birth, I am in their DMs and I'm like, hey, just so you know, like I'm here if you need to talk. My postpartum depression looked like this. And like, if you need help, I'm here. And the worst that comes out of that is you're like an awkward conversation and that's it. The best scenario that comes out of that is you help someone realize that like they could struggle in a different way. And so as a friend, like just be willing to have the conversation and ask, like, truly, are you doing okay?
And I also think, going in and finding those resources, that's a big thing that we are trying to provide to women during postpartum experience. And so we have a newsletter that we launch bi-weekly talking about, different things that come with postpartum. I think the last one we talked about was the invisible load that moms have of having to do all these things that no one really thinks about on a daily. And so we really want our newsletter for someone to look at it and say, like, I'm connecting with this. I'm feeling less alone. This is helping me throughout my day. So you can find that newsletter on village4.com. And just know, like, if you're in it right now, if you're in the weeds of new parenthood and postpartum, it is fleeting. You are going to get through it. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and you are going to look back one day and say, I miss those moments. Even during the hardest moments, you will look back and say, I made it through. I was strong and I did it. And we're going to just talk about all of these things in our next couple of episodes. I think the next episode, we're really going to focus on postpartum rage because both Cait
Yes.
and I, especially during the second, I've experienced a lot of that postpartum rage and what comes with that.
I think like you just summarized it so well, but like looking back, what I know now that I didn't know through my first postpartum experience is everything in motherhood is a phase. What you are going through as the mom, what your child is going through as the baby, what you're going through together as a family unit, it's a phase and it's not going to be like this forever. And I felt so much despair when I was in the depths of postpartum because I thought it was going to be the rest of my life. And if I could just go back and hug myself and be like, this is a phase and you're going to get through it and it's going to be okay.
It's a phase that you don't want to wish away because when you wish it away, you look back and say, I wish I enjoyed that more. But it is a phase. Those feelings you're feeling, you may be sad right now, but there will be a day that comes where you're happy, you're confident, you don't have anxiety. And this is coming from two women who have gone through the fogginess. Have come out the other end. I feel like I'm finally out of my fogginess with my second, and I'm really, really starting to enjoy just parenthood again. And it's something that it's going to change per pregnancy and every postpartum that you have, but the fogginess does disappear. All right. Well, tune in next time.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
If you like this episode, subscribe to the podcast, share it with a mom who might need it. Subscribe to the newsletter. Like Christy said, it's a great place where we kind of share like tips and tools for how to prepare and get through postpartum. It's on village4.com. And also we would love to hear like topics you guys want to hear about. So you can DM us on any social channel and tell us what you want us to cover.
So you'll be able to find Mommy Okay on Instagram, Mommy Okay, and then all streaming outlets for podcasts.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Chaos of a sleepless night. They'll keep it real, they'll keep it sunny. Being a mom is weird and funny. From losing your keys to losing your mind, they're here to remind you're one of a kind. Grab a coffee or a glass of wine. Tune in for truth, it's podcast time. Mommy